Welcome to Boardmaker Studio Intermediate. I'm Sandy Kleinworth and I'll be leading you today. Please download the resource materials. If you are new to Boardmaker Studio, you might benefit from first watching the Boardmaker Basics webinar, and it can be found on our website, goboardmaker.com, under Learning and Support, then Learning Resources and Webinars. There you'll see upcoming webinars and then below all of our recorded webinars. Click on Boardmaker Studio Basics to view. Here's our agenda for today. We'll have a quick look at the Boardmaker Studio dashboard, and then we'll move on to Boardmaker Studio projects made with multiple activities. We'll start off by looking at a sample finished studio project that incorporates multiple templates, and then we'll backtrack and look at the steps you would use to create your own projects, beginning with creating with a template, adding a second template to a project, importing an already completed activity into your project, and then adding a page to the template to serve as an index to the activities within the larger project. Then we'll go have an overview of the Gadgets panel, how it's organized and what gadgets are. Finally, we'll show how to move activities from Studio into your connected Boardmaker Online account and how you can manage them there. So let's open the Boardmaker Studio software and get started. When you launch your Boardmaker Studio software, you land here on the dashboard. And you'll note up in the right-hand corner, you do have a little Help tab, and you can access the User's Guide for Boardmaker Studio within that Help tab. So you see my recent activities in Boardmaker Studio right here. And if I want to see all of my activities within Studio, I would just select the All Activities tab here at the top. Notice that on this panel on the left, we see on this computer, and it's green, meaning that's what's selected. So we're seeing the activities on this computer in Studio. But I can select this My Boardmaker Rocket, and if I had any recent activities in Boardmaker Online, I'd see them with the Recent tab. To see them all, I can click All Activities, and then I see folders and activities that I have on my associated Boardmaker Online account. And with these little thumbnail views, I can hover over any of them, and you can see I've got an option to download, meaning I would download it from my associated Boardmaker Online account into my Boardmaker Studio application. If I've already done that, you can see the teeny word that says synced right above that thumbnail view. I'm going to go back to on this computer, so we're back looking at the activities within Studio. So let's start off by looking at a completed project that's a composite of multiple templates. It's a chance to show you some templates, but also how you can group them into a project. So when I hover over the thumbnail of the activity, you see I've got three choices. I see Edit, Play, and Move. And Move means move to my Boardmaker Online account. Edit means change, add, or change it. And Play means launch it into play mode. So I can play it right here on my computer, or if I was hooked up to my smartboard, I could play it on my smartboard. So here we go. I'm clicking play. I created this as the landing page of this project that I've made with multiple activities. As you can tell, it's kind of a table of contents that will help me navigate to the different activities that are part of this project. So maybe these are activities that are part of a circle time. If I click on any one of these buttons, it'll open the activity that's associated with it. So let's click on attendance. I click attendance, and here I am at the student login activity. This activity was made with the attendance bins template. The instructor and the students can take turns moving their name to the here bin.
Keela is here. Stevie is here. Alicia is here.
You get the idea. And then at the end of the check-in, if there's any students left over, unmoved, then we would, as a group, process of elimination, move them to not here. And you can see that I'm using Boardmaker symbols as icons for the different students. But as you can also see, I could
Thomas is
use
here.
actual student photos if I wanted to. So when we're all finished with this, I'm going to use the go back to return to that landing page. So back to my index. Next activity, we have a table of contents. A Pledge of Allegiance. I can click that and it takes us to an activity made with a template called Slideshow Quick Setup. And here we are, we're getting ready to say the Pledge of Allegiance. When we're ready, we click play.
I pledge allegiance.
And we have essentially a slideshow
to the flag.
That takes us step by step or phrase by phrase, giving us a visual and an auditory model to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of America.
Okay, you get the idea. And again, we have a return to the landing built in. When I want to stop, takes me right back to my index. Next, we have an activity to give the weather report. I'm going to click Weather. This is a supported writing activity made with a writing template called Choice Writing, Categories and Sentences. And basically, we have 3 different parameters where we might want to talk about the weather. The categories here at the bottom. The temperature, the sky, and precipitation. My weather reporter is going to choose a category. We'll start with temperature. And then we get a vocabulary bank from which he or she can choose the accurate statement to describe the temperature today.
It is warm today.
And then we choose the second category or parameter.
Sky.
What would be the accurate statement about that?
It is partly cloudy.
And then finally,
precipitation.
So you see each time I get a different vocabulary bank that allows the student to make the weather report.
There is no precipitation now.
You can see that this template has some controls at the top. We can read the whole thing. We can read it sentence by sentence. I can hide all of the symbolating symbols, or I can show them all. So once we're finished with this activity, again, we can go right back to our landing page, and then we have additional activities if we want to go to them, including a calendar. So here's our monthly calendar. We can
26.
Do whatever we need to do here.
Today is Tuesday.
So on. And again, when we're finished, we can go right back to that index. So maybe we finished up all the activities we want to do in the circle time. Maybe we'll finish with the schedule. This made with the template called Sequence Finished Box 8 Steps Horizontal. So my group can discuss and preview our schedule for the morning and then go ahead and move circle time to finished. All right, and stop. So get the idea of how this can work. I can click stop upper right to return back to the dashboard. All right, so let's run through how we could do this. Creating a composite project for something like circle time or morning meeting is one example of why you might combine activities. Maybe you want to create a project that includes multiple activities for a unit or an event or a therapy session. Let's create ours with maybe a thought towards a class trip to the zoo. So we're going to start by creating our project with a template. To create from a template, we go to New, which takes us to this New Project dialog box. We see templates over here on the left in categories. Let's start with a sequencing activity. So I'm going to select the sequencing category, and then I have a choice from on-screen and print activities. I want on-screen. Double click that, and then I see all the small thumbnails and the names of all the different sequencing templates that are within Boardmaker Studio. Note, the templates that you see in Boardmaker Studio are identical to the templates you see in Boardmaker Online. So the template guide that's in the handouts says Boardmaker Online Template Guide. Those are the exact same templates. They work the same way in Boardmaker Studio. All right, so I'm going to choose one of these. I'm going to choose sequencing horizontal 5 items. I click on this small thumbnail, and you'll notice I get a slightly larger thumbnail over here, description of the template, and then when I'm good to go, I can click Create. So in these simple templates, you will note little red words. This guiding text, as it's called, it provides directions for you as you edit. And those little guiding texts won't show when you're in play mode, but they do let you know what you need to know as you're editing an activity. So we can edit these buttons with Edit in Place. Edit in Place means you click on a button, you type a label, find a symbol, one thing at a time. So let's start off with our sequence. The little red words tell me I need to put my sequenced items in order as I populate. We're teaching the template where things go. So on our zoo trip, we're going to ride the bus. I'm going to type enter, choose a symbol, enter, go to the next button. We're going to arrive at the zoo. And I could choose any one of these zoo picture communication symbols, but I also can use actual photographs that I have on my computer. Maybe I took pictures of the zoo trip, so I would go to From File, and then I can navigate in my pictures to the picture I want and enter, and it'll bring that picture right on in. Continue with the sequence. You can see that it's fast. Whoops, got to spell. And finally, all right, so I've finished this sequence, this example of the sequencing activity. And then what I'm going to do when I'm finished is I'm going to save it. So I go over to the File tab. I'm going to save project as new project, and I'm going to give it a name. And the name I'm going to give it is Zoo Unit, and save. So now we see over here in the panel, we can see that I've got the sequencing activity, and it's over here in my project panel. It's showing me everything in the project so far. So we have some choices for adding more activities to this project, more parts. We can add and create from templates. We can create from scratch, or we can import all or part of projects that I already have, that I've already made. So let's start off by adding another template. At the top of the project, with the project name, I can hover, and you see as I hover, that little floating toolbar appears. The very first icon on the left on that panel looks like a little hammer and wrench. I know it's too small to see, but that means tools, that little hammer and wrench. And right next to it, it has this little drop-down menu. And when I click that, I get some options. And within the drop-down menu, one of the options is New. And we have choices here. I want a full activity, so I can click Activity. Voila, we've been here before, right? We came here when we selected New from the dashboard earlier. And again, I've got my list of template categories here on the left. I can choose the category. This time, let's write a book. So I'm going to click Books and Presentations, and then On Screen. And then once again, I'm going to see my choices with little thumbnail views and the template names. Click the one I want. I see the thumbnail larger and a description, and I click Create. All right, so here we go. It just popped into my project panel, and there it's called Activity 1. It's the thing I just added. The first thing I want to do is rename it. So using the little drop down, I'm going to rename so that I can keep things straight over there. I'm going to call it the Zoo Book. And I need to be able to see all the pages in that Zoo Book so I can open the folder, and I can do that with a double click. And there I see all the pages in the Zoo template. To access one, I can double click on that little thumbnail. And again, to program to edit my book, I'm just going to use Edit in Place. I start typing where the text goes, and I'm just following the little red words. I'm going to click here in the Symbols button and type my search. Takes me to the search panel. Choose whatever image I want to use. Enter. And again, keep in mind those red guiding texts aren't going to show in play mode. And then I just progress to my second page and select the text area. Type whatever I want my text to be. Click where the picture goes, type my search term. And again, just like I could previously, I can use picture communication symbols, but I can also use any images I have in my pictures and incorporate them in my book. Just an aside, in these interactive books, so here where I've got the text, when I select that text box here, over here in the Properties panel, I see that's really a message window because it's going to speak, right, when we're reading the interactive book. I do have an option here for Symbolate. If I would prefer to have my text symbolated, I can just switch that on and get some symbols to go along with that. Okay, periodically as I'm editing the book, I'm going to save all my pages, and you can see that they're showing over here in the panel. All right, so let's pretend that that's complete. I'm going to close that folder just so that we have room to see over there in my project panel. I can keep adding as many activities from templates as I want, but I can also add activities that I've already made. So let's do that. Back to my project panel, back at the very top, so that I can access that floating toolbar. And back to my little tools drop down. And I have an option underneath New that says Import. And when I hover over Import, I've got two choices here. I can import from another project, meaning a studio project, or I could import from Boardmaker, meaning Boardmaker version 6. So let's import from another project, from another studio project. When I click that, it takes me to the list of my studio projects in my Documents folder. And I can find whatever one I want. Let's see, how about a trip to the zoo writing activity? Select that and open. And it gives me this little preview, shows me all the pages of the activity I'm bringing in, and I just say, okay. And now, lets me know that was successful, and we see it right over here in my project panel. So now I've got my original sequencing activity, I've got my zoo book that I wrote, and I've got a writing activity that I imported that I already had. All right, so we can, one more thing, or two more things that we can do. One is What if we want to really integrate activities? So I have a zoo book. Remember, let's go back to the zoo book, and let's say in the middle of the zoo book, I want to add a sorting activity. So we're talking about the zoo, but I want to put in an activity where we're going to sort zoo animals from farm animals. I can do that. So right here, since that's as far as I really went, I can access that same little toolbar, and I can select that little drop-down menu, and I could add a new activity, a new page from a template and create one, or I actually can go back up here to the top and import from another project like we did before. I don't want to have to make another sort. I think I've got a sorting zoo. There we go. Sort the zoo, open, say okay, say okay. And now it's right here. Let's open the zoo book, and I can actually drag my little trip to the zoo sort and put it wherever I want within the pages of the book. All right, so I have activities I made today, activities I imported that I've already made. One more thing we want to do to kind of match our model and to be able to navigate through all these different activities is let's add that table of contents like we saw in the morning circle activity. So let's go back to the top. We get that hovering toolbar. Within tools, I want new. And this time, I just want a blank page. So I'm going to select page. Gives me a blank page. Put it right here and called it page 3. Again, I'm going to rename it so that I can remember what all these different pages are. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it index. Okay. And if I want to, I can even drag it to the top of my list if I'd like to. All right, so we have the index. And remember how the index worked in our morning circle activity. It has buttons to click, so it'll take us to all of the activities within the project. So we could use the button tool, click and drag and make buttons. And we could even use the spray tool and spray those buttons to duplicate for however many I need. And then I'd edit the buttons, put a symbol, a label, and the action that will make each button go to the particular activity it's associated with. Well, we could do that, but an alternative to creating these with buttons is to use a gadget. So I'm going to get rid of those. And I'm going to go over and open my gadgets panel. Started off as a project panel, but we can click the gadgets tab, and now it's the gadgets panel. So what is a gadget? Gadgets are little pre-programmed objects that you can drag onto a page in Studio. It's going to make great sense as soon as you see one. We're in the gadgets panel. You can see we've just got a bunch of folders here because the gadgets are collected in categories, several different categories. And for this particular part of the activity, for my little index, my little table of contents, I want something from the navigation folder because I want to be able to navigate among the activities. All right, so I'm going to open this folder, double click, and I see all the navigation gadgets. So I'm going to want the buttons to navigate to another activity to open the first page of those other activities. So I'm going to find the open page gadget. And I'm just going to literally drag it onto the page. There it is. So I can treat it kind of like a button. I can resize it. I can reposition it. Okay. I can spray it however I want. So I'm going to actually put it right here in the middle how I want this table of contents to look. I'm going to spray it, but I'm going to use a circular spray. So up at the spray tool, change to circular, and then I'm going to make it in that sort of arrangement. So now I've got several open page gadgets. They're already programmed to go to pages. I just want to finesse them so that they have the appearance I want, the label I want, and that they each go to the particular page that I want. So let's start by editing the appearance. Let's click on it. And again, I'm going to use Edit in Place, that same process I used when I was programming buttons. First one, let's see, we wanted to go to the sequence zoo activity. So I type the label, enter. I can choose one of these nice sequence symbols and enter. Okay, so I've got the appearance how I want it. I've got the label how I want it. My button is still selected. And you'll remember when we have a button selected, we can modify properties for that button over here in the Properties panel. And what I want to change is I want to finesse the programming. So I'm going to select Programming because I want to edit that action. The action's already in there to go to a page, to open a page. I just need to tell it what page. So I click Edit Actions. It's got all that computer programming stuff already in. I'm not going to bother any of that. I'm just going to look for red words and click. And now it shows me all the activities that I have so far in my project. And sure enough, they're sequencing. I wanted to open that sequencing activity. Click Open, click Save. Okay, so let's do another one. We want to select this one. I want this one to go to our writing activity, Writing Zoo. And I type a label, enter to get a nice writing symbol. And over to Edit Actions. It's already ready to open a page. I just have to tell it what page. Click on Page Name. And remember, this was imported and it came in a folder. Just open the folder and go to the first page of the activity and say Open and Save. So you get the idea. I would go to each of these in turn and associate them with the page that I want them to open. And let's go back to our project and let's take a moment, go to File. Let's make sure we've got all our pages saved. And we can have a quick little preview of what we've got. You've always got access to a play button in the upper right that you can go from edit mode into play. Click play. Here's my table of contents. I can get right over into the zoo. Well, here's the catch. I'm going into the zoo, but I don't want this to stop. When I'm finished with this template, typically, if it was by it standing alone, when we would stop, we would actually stop the activity. In a composite project like this, I don't want this stop button to stop. I want it to take me back to my index. So I have one more piece of editing to do. Let's go back into edit mode. And let's go to that sequencing page. Here we are in edit mode, back in sequencing. Instead of this stopping the activity, I wanted to go back to the index. So let's go grab that gadget again. Gadgets, open page. I'm just going to drag it. I'm going to put it right on top of the stop sign. And you could put any kind of label or symbol there, a go back or a home or whatever. I'm going to use home, so I type home, enter, get a little house. And just like we did before, it's programmed already to open a page. Pardon me. I just need to tell it what page. So back to edit actions and then give it my page name, which is index. And save. I could do the very same thing for my book. I could go to wherever maybe the last page of my book, and make sure that I have a way to get back into my index. Which brings me to, what if I have stuck a template right here in the middle of my book? In play mode, this is going to go page 1, page 2. It will open my sorting activity, but I don't want that sorting to close. I want it to go right on to page 3. So I can open that and then again change with a little gadget so that it doesn't really stop, that it just keeps on going. Drag my open page, tell it what page I want it to go to. I want it to go to, not that one. I want it to go in the book to page 3 and save. So you get the idea. Not difficult, just methodical, going through and making sure that we've got ways to get to and from all the activities that are incorporated in the activity. All right, so back to the project panel, we can see our whole project, starting with our index that's going to allow us to be able to go back and forth, and then each of the activities in turn. We can always go back into any activity that we have in Studio and edit some or all of it. So it doesn't have to be finished, it's just finished for now. All right, so we have created a composite project with a couple of templates and some activities already made and a blank page. And you got a little preview of how gadgets work, how we can find a gadget and just drag it onto the page. So let's go look at some more gadgets. I'm going to just select let's go to the dashboard. So finished with this, we want to get back. Do we want to save it? We absolutely do. And yes, we do. Wanted to come back. Here's my zoo unit now in progress. Wanted to come back to the dashboard because to look at gadgets, we're going to need a platform for us to play with them on. So let's select new, and let's use just a blank page. Instead of using a template, we're just going to use blank. It's already showing here. We just say create. So here I am in the editor. I've got a big blank page, and you can see that big blank page in the project panel. And let's open the gadgets panel. And we had the navigation folder open, so let's close it so we can see all the folders again. So we'll start with basics. And to open the folder like we did with navigation, I'm going to double click. Just an aside, some gadgets are in more than one category. And we saw open page in the navigation folder, but it's also here as a basic gadget. So makes it a little easier to find. You can find it in multiple places. Let's look at one of the most popular basic gadgets, and that is Speak Label. So I'm going to drag one onto the page, and just like a button, remember, I can resize it, I can reposition it however I want, and I can duplicate it by spraying. I'm going to go back to a grid spray arrangement. Click and drag to spray however many buttons I want. So basically, I just made a speaking communication support because these gadgets are going to speak the label. Now I just have to edit the buttons. And I can populate this with edit in place in a very short time and have a speaking board, maybe a core board. Type a label, enter, choose a symbol, enter, select a button, type a label, enter, choose a symbol, enter, I'm going to populate just a little. And maybe one more. But you get the idea. The actions are already built in. It already knows that it's, oops, I want that to say not note. There we go. All right, I've got some words to work with here. All right, so I didn't have to do any computer programming. I just had to edit the look of each of the buttons. And now when I segue over into play mode,
I want that.
I have a talking button, and I didn't have to really do any programming. I just edited my symbols and labels. So I'm going to stop. And again, that gadget is just speak label. All right, I'm going to remove those. And let's close the basics folder and go on to the next category, which is draggable buttons. Draggable buttons have actually quite a few. As you see, some of them are in these subcategories. Let's look at sorting. Within sorting, I have a number of gadgets. I can drag a bin right onto my work surface. So let's sort into two groups, A and B. And then we're going to have some sorting objects. Group A objects and group B objects. We'll just figure out what those are. So let's say group A is fruit. And I just type the label, enter to get a little symbol in that little box. Group B we'll call vegetables. Enter, get that little symbol. And now I want some fruits and vegetables to sort. So I've got an A draggable and a B draggable. I can spray those so that I have some more to work with. And these. And I bet you know already what's going to happen. I just click one and I want an apple. I want a banana. I want lettuce. And I want beans. All right, so let's pretend that we're all finished here. To go over into play mode, I could just...
That's right. Apple belongs in fruit.
It knows what to do. It knows how to act.
That's right. Lettuce belongs in vegetables.
Okay, so as long as I made the draggable buttons, the A ones will go in the A box, the B ones will go in the B box. What I might do here, because I'm just programming them all in a row, just for fun, maybe we would take all of these and shuffle them so that they're not all in a organized in their groups already. All right, so those are sorting bins. We could have, as you can see, I could have several. I could have A to H, different sorting bins with its associated activities. So those are in the draggable category. I'm just selecting these all to delete them, and let's close that back up. All right, let's look at math. I'm going to double click on math for on-screen math activities or supports. For example, look at this category, calculators. You can just drag a calculator right on the page, and look what it does in play mode. It calculates.
6 plus 3 equals 9.
Okay, so I can have that available if I want to. Let's just go back. So I'm just closing that calculators folder. Rulers. I can put an on-screen functional ruler on the page. And let's say I have some objects. We'll just make a button for fun. This ruler is accurate. In play mode, I can measure items, and it will give me an accurate measurement. Spinners. You want to have an on-screen spinner for a game or for some other activity. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 choices. Just drag it on to the page. You can edit these little buttons. Maybe we want to use it for whose turn it is or some other item, but I can really edit that with anything I want, a name or whatever. And then in play mode, it's a little functional spinner. Okay, and it will randomly select a different quadrant each time. Going back to close that, we also have, let's get rid of some of this. Counting bin. We can put a counting bin on the page, and then we can have some buttons to count. And these could be edited to be anything. And they could have a label or not. And I can spray them. And then in play mode,
1, 2, 3.
We can have counting. So you get the idea. We are literally just dragging these different objects onto the work surface. We can drag them, as you saw, in combination with other activities that we have, or make an activity completely with gadgets. Many of these different actions that we see in the gadgets, they're incorporated into templates. It's just a way to really personalize with things that you might specifically want. Let's look at time for just a minute. These are great for visual supports. We do have a date, and notice when I put it on there what date it says. We'll get back to that. We have a digital clock, and notice what that says. We also have time or timers. So these timer bars can be great. You can put them on an activity, and as the student is working the different parts of the activity, they've got a little timer bar that will help them maybe stay on task. So let's just look at these 3 gadgets in play mode. The date in play mode is going to be the actual today's date. Pretty smart software, and I'm in Central Time, so this is the accurate time. And if I want my student to get started and do whatever work is here on the page, I can start the timer, and it's going to give them a little visual indicator of how much time they've used, how much time they have left. So those are some of the gadgets in time. And let's go back. And I'm going to get these out of the way. All right, let's look at writing. And in writing, we've got several subcategories, some subfolders, and you can create really cool writing activities with gadgets. And let's just pick something from some of these different categories. Let's open keyboards, and then I have a choice of an ABC keyboard or a QWERTY keyboard. And yes, I'm just literally dragging a keyboard onto the page. Let's go back and continue working on this writing activity. I also want some word prediction. And I can just grab a word prediction bar and put it right on my activity. And I'm going to need somewhere for my words to go, right? So I need a writing window, and I have differentiated writing windows, beginning, intermediate, advanced, text only, that sort of thing. Let's choose a intermediate, and I'm going to drag that over. So I've got my window, I've got tools here, my editing tools, word prediction, and a keyboard. Let's play it. And sure enough, I can use the on-screen keyboard.
A.
Word prediction.
Dog. Is. Running.
Okay, so very, very cool word prediction. And I can type on screen, meaning I could use scanning or alternate access to access this keyboard. It also responds if I'm using my external keyboard. As I start typing on the keyboard, it's also going to accept that typing and give me some word prediction that corresponds.
Fast.
And within my writing toolbar, I've got tools. We saw some of these earlier in another template. We can read all, we could read sentences. I can go left and right. Right now, my symbols are hidden, but if I want to, I could have my symbol 8 symbols showing here in my writing window. Okay, so I can create on-screen writing word processing essentially, and really personalize it however I need to. And going back and going back, let's look, let's remove these. And let's look at fun. There's a couple of cool things within fun. You can have a recording gadget, excuse me, that allows a student to make a recording and play it back. There's this balloon pop-up button. This is kind of cool. I can drag a balloon pop-up, and it just looks like this for now. So let's spray that, and I want to spray in a circle so that I have several. And think about this maybe for helping a student to learn cause and effect, or to learn scanning, or to learn mouse function, or maybe even just one-to-one kind of correspondence. Each of these different balloon pop gadgets, I can edit the look of them, the symbol and the label. So let's just type, enter, grab a symbol for a few of these. And you get the idea. I'm just basically programming them as I would any typical button. But let's see what happens in play mode. So when I go into play mode, it's balloons. And selecting any of the balloons reveals the content that I put in below. So this could be motivating for scanning or for any other access practice or teaching. All right, let's click stop. And here's that recording gadget that I mentioned. It really is just a little recording control. And in play mode, you can select, you or the student can select the record button, and it will show the progress of the recording that it's making. Stop, and you can automatically, and it will show the progress of the recording that it's making. Okay. All right. So let's close that up. Oh, at the very top here, we do have some animations. These are kind of cool. Let me get these out of the way. We'll have a quick look at animations, and then we'll talk about moving things to the Boardmaker Online associated account. These are little directional moving animations, and they are literally what you think. So this one I can put whatever I want in there, but let's just say that I want it. Oh, there's a left hand. We'll use that. And maybe I'm teaching directionality or direction words. Maybe I'm just going to use words and no symbols, whatever. So let's make that one with no symbol. And then let's see what happens in play mode. There you go. So those are those little directional animations. Okay, let's stop. And you get the idea with gadgets, different categories, fun to play with, can be very useful, adding to activities that are in progress or just using them as the basis for an original activity. I'm going to go back to the dashboard and let's take just a minute and talk about associated Boardmaker Online account. So we can see the activities that we've looked at today, that zoo unit that we made. And remember, when we're here on this computer within Studio, we can see hovering over any of these thumbnails, you can see edit and play and move. So if I click move, it's going to tell me, do you want to move this activity to Boardmaker Online? It tells you that it will turn it into an online file, and it will tell me that it will notify me when it's successful. Notifications can happen up here in the little bell in the upper right of the software. So I'm going to say, yep, let's move it. All right, so let's go look on my in my Boardmaker Online software. There we go. So now I'm in Boardmaker Online, and when you're logged in, first log into Boardmaker Online, you're here on the home page. No, it's the home page, says home page. To find my activities in Boardmaker Online, we go to My Boardmaker, and we've got different activities here in the list, and here's the sort activity that I've moved. So whether I made it in Studio or here in Boardmaker Online, it's going to be in the same place, and I'm going to have the same abilities to manage it regardless of where I made it. How I know I can manage it is with the management toolbar to the right of each activity. So here's a sort activity. The toolbar tells me I could play this activity right here in Boardmaker Online. I can edit the activity. And when I select that little edit drop-down, I could edit it here, or if I'm going to be offline, I could edit it back in Studio, my choice. The next tool that we see here is Assign. So within my Boardmaker Online account, my instructor account, I have some students associated with my instructor account. If I would like to make a copy of this activity and put it in a student's assignment list so that they could play it for data or play it as homework, I can click Assign. I'm going to see the list of my active roster, and I can just click and assign it to any student that I want to assign it to. The little number changes, little visual support for me to let me know I've assigned it. The next tool we see is Add to a Playlist. I might add to a playlist for two reasons. One is, over time, you may have hundreds of activities. If I add it to a playlist, I can access a smaller group of activities I have using my playlist tab. But more importantly, if I add it to a playlist, I can play it on my Boardmaker Student Center iPad app. That iPad app, which you can download for free and associate with your Boardmaker Online account, doesn't do all the things we can do in Boardmaker software. It's really like a player, but it will play any activity that I've put in my playlist, or I can access any activity I've assigned to any student there. I just click add to playlist, it grays out and lets me know that it's there. And then I can organize activities in folders, in activity sets. I can delete activities I wish I didn't have, and I can share activities on the community by clicking Share Activity and then filling out the form. All right, well, let's circle back around and finish up. All right, what's next? Well, if you haven't already, please download Boardmaker Studio from the homepage of your Boardmaker Online account. Right there on the homepage, right next to your account ID, you'll see an opportunity, a little link to download Studio. If you don't have Boardmaker Online, you can go to our website, goboardmaker.com, and look under Education, Software, and then finally Boardmaker to look into it. Please visit that same website for additional webinars, live and recorded. And please share your feedback with us. Thank you so much for participating. We hope we see you again very soon in another webinar right here. Thank you.